It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first show of 2017 of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. We appreciate you guys being here this morning. As we talk about the housing market, we continue our discussion, which we've been having for the past 5 years on this program, as it relates to real estate here in Charleston. I'm a guy that's, sells real estate full-time. If this is your first time tuning in, I operate a team that sells close to 200 homes a year here in the Charleston area. Been ranked in the top 1% of agents here for almost 10 years in a row. And so I share my experiences with you. I share what I know about the market so that I can help you prepare for it. A lot of people like to stay up to date with real estate. It's a fun topic. It's a lot more interesting than some other areas, I think, in life and in business. But that's just me. I love my job, and so I could talk about this all day long. But the purpose of this show is very simply to keep you informed with real estate matters. Never use any sort of salesy approach to help sway your opinion one way or the other. This is an opportunity for me to deliver the facts, to tell it to you straight. So if you're the type of person that appreciates that, you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate this year, I do want to get a few housekeeping items out of the way before I tell you what we're going to talk about over the next hour. But if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, let me give you my contact information. Again, I sell real estate during the week, would love the opportunity to work with you. Or at least discuss the idea of working with you. So I can be reached at 843-345-1273. That's 843-345-1273. Or you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And you can learn more about my team and the type of properties we represent, what we sell, our marketing, so on and so forth. And I've got a few things that I'm going to provide you with throughout the show that are going to take you back to this website. I've spent some time over the past few weeks, actually wrote an ebook that I'm going to have published. And so we're going to talk about that a little later on the program. But listingsincharleston.com is the website to go to. And for those of you that have listened to this program in the past, I have agreed to continue to honor the 2.4% listing commission to sell your home this year. 2.4% listing commission. Other folks, other realtors that are selling somewhere around the same amount of properties that as I am, and there's only a few of them, but they're charging a lot more commission. They're charging you transaction fees. They're charging you more money to do very similar things for you. Now, obviously, when you get to a level where you're selling almost 200 homes a year, the intricacies of how you run your business and where you spend your money and how you market your properties for sale and how you interact with your clients is going to be very different. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you want to save some money in selling your home this year and work with an experienced agent, I invite you to, again, give me a call, 843-345-1273, or go to listingsincharleston.com. And then one more quick thing. We are still working, of course, with our preferred lender, and if you work with him to purchase a home, you'll pay up to $5,000 of your closing costs if you're going to get a mortgage. And, of course, if you're a seller and you partner with our team, any buyer that uses this preferred lender will still receive those same benefits. So it saves the seller money, of course, to list with our team and then have a buyer work with that preferred lender because the seller doesn't have to pay any of the buyer's closing costs. So all kinds of way to save money here on the Brian Beatty team. So enough about that. Appreciate you letting me get through those housekeeping items. Let me tell you what I want to talk about over the next hour. It's the new year, new you, new plans potentially to buy or sell a home. And so one of my favorite segments from last year, 2016, was this process of putting a property on the market and something that I call, or something that's commonly referred to in our industry, is called buying a listing. Buying a listing. It's real estate talk. It's real estate agent talk. What does that mean? So let me explain what this means, because I want to talk about this because right after this, I'm going to get on the phone with an appraiser. And we're going to learn more about the appraisal market, the state of the market as it relates to appraisals. And of course, we're still in a seller's market. We still have inventory issues. So prices will continue to rise. That's my projection. That shouldn't be a big surprise. It's where our market is right now. It's where it has been for years. So the challenge becomes, how do we continue to substantiate this? How do we continue to prove to a bank that the home is worth more money than what the previous home in the neighborhood sold for and what the home before that sold for? So we're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk about some things for you to watch out for. But what I want to get through first is just this process of buying a listing, because it's the new year. A lot of people are going to put their home on the market here in the next few months. A lot of people had their home come off the market on December 31st. I have a Friday call-in every Friday morning, at about 7:50. And I talk with John Quincy, great guy. I've known him for years, about the state of the real estate market. And so this past Friday, I talked about the fact that, of course, we've got interest rates rising and we've got a few changes that are happening in this market, but there's yet another issue that continues to come up. It happens every year. If you watch the market, you know what to look for. But real estate agents, when they sell properties, when they sign listing agreements with sellers to represent them and sell their home, those agreements are usually good through the end of the year. Now, usually there's a 6-month contract that you sign. Some agents require a year. Some agents are flexible. I'll put whatever date on there you want, so long as it's reasonable. Give me an actual shot to sell the house because of all the cost I incur to market the property. It's got to be fair both ways. But, let's say that it's, spring or summer and you sign on with a real estate agent and they say, all right, well, great. We'll just put this contract good through the end of the year. So what happens every year on January 1st? We have this huge reduction in properties available for sale. Happened again this year. I think between December 30th and January 2nd, there were like almost 600 properties that came off the market. I think that equates to about 15% of the properties that we have available for sale. I think it may be closer to 20%. I don't know. But I think as of right now, we're still under 5,000 properties available for sale in our local MLS. And so those properties are going to be coming back on the market at some point soon. The question is, are they going to be coming back on at the same price, higher price, lower price? Are the sellers going to change anything in order to have their home be more appealing to a buyer? Are they going to change agents? Are they going to give themselves a better or different shot at selling their property with a different marketing plan, with a different group of agents to help them get the job done? And so the reason I'm telling you all of this is that there's this process that agents typically use, and I'm so not a fan of this, but they call it buying a listing. And so let me kind of paint this picture. An agent walks into a property. They interview with the seller. And the thing you have to understand about real estate agents is that, in this specific market that we're in right now, it's challenging for a lot of agents out there to find listings. There's a lot less of them. We have inventory issues. So there are more agents than there have been in the past several years. There are less properties for sale than there have been in the past several years. So people are fighting tooth and nail over listings. And of course, when that happens and there's this competitive environment among real estate agents to get listings, what happens first? You tell them a high price to get them interested in listing their home with you, or they reduce their commission to help you save some money. I go in with that right away, 2.4% commission. You guys know that already. I'm here to save you some money. And then third, they might say, oh, no, you don't need to do that to your house. No, you don't need to worry about decluttering that room. Let's just get it on the market. Let's just see what happens. It's a great market. It'll sell. And so agents go in there. They realize that they're interviewing with the seller, and the seller has another agent they want to talk to. And so that's when the agent becomes weak, and they start to say things to the seller that they don't want to say, but they're going to say in order to walk away with that listing, because for them, walking away with that signed listing agreement is more important in some instances than it is to walk away with a listing agreement that is a reflection of a home that will actually sell. So the challenge for these agents out there is that, there's competition. There's agents like me that are going out there and we're telling people everything that we do to sell our properties and the success we've had with that. And if you're a new agent, you only sell a few homes a year. It's very, very hard to compete with that. Let's just be honest, being truthful here. So how do they? Well, they tell the seller a price that the seller wants to hear. Or they go in, they cut their commission drastically because they know they don't offer the same value. And so what happens? At the end of the day, the listing agent is all pumped up because they walk out of the house and they've got a listing. Yay. But it's overpriced. They're making less money than they wanted to make. And the home needs a bunch of repairs, or it needs decluttering, and it needs some staging. And the agent has painted this picture that the seller doesn't need to do any of that. So congratulations. You got a listing that you're going to have an incredibly tough time selling. And guess who gets left high and dry? The seller, because the seller is the person that's selling the house. I mean, they're the ones that need someone to go into the property, give them a consultative approach, be a professional, tell them the truth, ask the seller permission to say, hey, I want to be very truthful with you about what I'm seeing in the market right now and what I think you need to do to your home and where I think we need to price your home in order for it to sell. Rather than this whole dog and pony show, this whole smoke and mirrors show that a lot of agents are putting on right now with sellers to get the listing. And so we're going to talk with an appraiser about the challenges that come with selling properties, especially when they're overpriced. Can the market support properties that continue to increase in price? If the neighbor down the street sold for $400,000 and you want to sell for $415,000 and the next guy wants to sell for $425,000, how is that possible? How do the banks look at that? Are you setting yourself up for failure? Or is it a reasonable approach? So stick around because we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot more this hour. And I'm excited for this show. We got a lot of good ground to cover. If you'd like to reach out to me, 843-345-1273. That's my cell, 345-1273. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. Remember, 2.4% commission to sell your house. Stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, Charleston, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. We were just talking about, selling your house this year and the process of overpricing a listing, buying a listing, so we say, in the industry. And so I wanted to couple this issue that we're having in this market of agents essentially telling sellers what they want to hear with regard to price. I want to actually get an appraiser on the phone. And I want to talk about the state of the appraisal market. And I want to give you guys some things to think about. So we're going to talk with Kevin Lowry, local real estate appraiser here in Charleston. Kevin, are you on the phone with us?
Yes, I'm here, Brian.
All right, very good. So, Kevin, we've known each other for years, been in the market for quite some time. And so I thought it would be a good idea for us to talk for just a little while about the state of the appraisal market. And what I really want to try and get out of this next few minutes or so, Kevin, is, the issue in this market right now, in my opinion, obviously very good things are happening. Prices are going up, sales are happening. It's all well and good. But of course, as markets get better, real estate agents enter the business. They start fighting over listings, which are becoming harder and harder to come by as inventory reduces. And so now we're left with this issue of, the good seasoned agents out there that are telling people the truth, telling people what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. And then you've got other agents saying, oh, no, price it for this. You can get more money, blah, blah, blah. And they're overpricing properties, or they're creating these smoke screens that aren't really benefiting the seller in the long run. So what I wanted to talk with you about is, how do we effectively appraise a property if we know that everything else in the neighborhood sold for less? Are there issues that we're running into in the appraisal market? So focus on that a little bit, and then maybe just what's going on in general. What do you talk to your appraiser friends about? Like what would I talk to my real estate agent friends about? So what are you guys talking about in circles behind closed doors? So maybe we'll start with the first question of walk us through the process, if you would, of appraising a property in which it is the most expensive property in a neighborhood, or it's just above all the other homes that have sold recently.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. And actually, that you kind of nailed what the appraisers are discussing behind closed doors, if you will. is just that that has been our biggest challenge this year, especially as the inventory, as you mentioned, is super tight, and therefore, we're in that era of each listing is going to be higher than the last sale, so on and so forth, and due to the supply levels, there are buyers willing to pay extra to have a house in the area that they want. So what do we do as appraisers? Well, we're only as good as the data that we have, and
right.
We have to analyze the data, which is becoming a lot more involved in analyzing the supply. So that can be presented to a bank, and you can also, you have to do extra work as far as calculating a percent increase over time, assuming that there is an increase, which is, the case pretty much across the board here.
Right.
And you can apply that to sales that are older. Well, you can do all of that, and still it may, in some cases, in many cases actually, the price has been, the next listing has been priced so far above everything else that, to bridge that gap and still do our job as we're, supposed to do in following lender guidelines, which are increasingly stringent, our backs may be against the wall. There may not be any way to actually perform a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA appraisal to standard that comes up with that sales price. And so in that case, that's where the headaches come for us.
Right.
And you've got willing and able buyers and multiple offers, which is all well and good. But at that point, in a seller's market, when you're competing with other buyers, sometimes at the end of the day, your buyer may have to come up with cash to make the difference. And buyers that don't have cash are the people that, honestly, in a multiple offer situation, are the ones that unfortunately may lose out on a property.
Right. Yeah, I want to clarify one thing you just said, which is, and we had this happen a lot this year on our listings. It's my job to determine what I think we can get out of a buyer based on market conditions. Then we also have to take a realistic approach as to, all right, well, what is the data actually saying? What do we think a buyer will be willing to pay, but then what can we support? And there's a fine line between the two. And so what you mentioned, I just want to make that clear, is that let's say you purchase a property for $400,000. You have a contract on a home for $400,000, and it was a multiple offer situation, but it appraises for $390,000. What Kevin is saying is that you're going to have to pay $10,000 in cash to make up the difference because the bank is going to base their mortgage off of the $390,000, not the $400,000.
Correct.
Just
well
important
said.
to know.
And that is, that's just, again, if I were able to write a narrative on supply levels and say that there's no other, property in this price range, and, we're able to hand that to the bank and say, based on this is probably worth this amount. And that's one thing, but you have to remember that we have we're put in a box, so to speak, as far as analytics are concerned. The bank wants 3 sales within 3 months, within 1 mile. You can present all of the information as far as the increasing market and the supply levels, and make a case for a property. But, after exhausting all of those possibilities, you still may not arrive at, the appraised value based on the sales that you have. And one little, added extra onto that is that the banks require you to bracket the sales price. And what that means is they want a comparable that has sold above the price, the contract price of the subject property. Therefore, if everything, before it is sold below, how do you bracket? And you can't just take 3 sales that have sold for less and adjust them upward to account for market conditions. The bank always wants to see 1 sale with a downward comparable adjustment. And that's where really our biggest problem lies. If there is no sale, each contract is higher than the last. How do you bracket it? And so that really becomes our problem and our difficulty in this market.
Right. And what a lot of people don't know, I don't think, is that when you do an appraisal, I mean, everything is fairly streamlined on your end. It's almost like me doing a short sale on my end. Everything's automated. Everything is run through an online process called Equator. But for you, when you send in an appraisal, it's essentially what? It's scanned, and then it's fact-checked through this system, and it looks for anomalies, and if there's any red flags, then they kind of kick it out. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes, that has been over the past, 3 years. It's called a UAD, which is Uniform Appraisal Data Set, and so all of the entities such as Fannie Mae and Freddie and FHA have, they basically design our forms. And now the form, rather than putting, condition of the floors as good, so to speak, or the property, they actually have it rated. It's a numerical 1 through 5. And adjustment percentages, if you adjust a property for the condition again, for an amount that is greater than 10%, let's say, all of those items, and they also are able to pull data from the neighborhood and determine if, the right comparables were used. It's basically like, if you remember the old testing, the old Scantron, you run it through, and it'll kick it out if there are any red flags. So, definitely have put us in a box, so to speak.
Okay, we got about a minute left.
Okay.
With that time, can you give people some tips on how to help get an appraisal as high as possible, if that's their goal? Is there anything a seller can do or an agent can do to help you arrive at a higher price, is the question?
Well, yeah, as far as, if you've got a contract, and again, multiple offer situations are very common, you're actually able to present the multiple offers. If you actually have multiple offers, you can show those to me. Now, granted, you may want to mark off some of the things that would, as far as the offeror's name and other things that you would feel are pertinent to cross out. But you can present me offers. I've had it happen recently in a area in Mount Pleasant, very tight inventory levels, and they had 5 offers at or above the price in which I was appraising, and that certainly factors in. I mean, if and you can actually disclose that on the appraiser. There's nothing wrong with that. You can say I was presented 4 or 5 multiple offers, and that kind of builds a case to the reader. Even if you're saying hey, these, the comparables, we don't have perfect comps here, but we do have 4 or 5 multiple offer, that have been provided to the appraiser, and you can include that in your report, and that is certainly one avenue in which to go. And other avenues, I have agents that will go in and present, some very thoughtful and insight analysis on each comparable that may be in the neighborhood, as far as maybe some of the conditions of the sale, and maybe some of the, often the agents have walked through the other properties and can have some commentary on that. So any information you can give me to build the case for the property that you have and maybe the contract that is, that you've got signed is always helpful.
Awesome. Kevin, I really appreciate you being on the program. Lots of good stuff. If someone wants to reach out to you, they're thinking about getting their home appraised, do you mind giving us your contact info?
Oh, absolutely. You can reach me really on my cell phone. It's always on 843-343-4125. And just give me a buzz, and I'm happy to talk real estate or get an appraisal for you or anything I can do to help you.
All right, very good. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for being on the program. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Super. Thanks, Brian. Take care.
Take care. All right, stick around, folks. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Coming back, we're going to continue our discussion about housing here in the Low Country. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Remember to reach out to me if you'd like to sell your house, 843-345-1273. That's 843-345-1273. Or go to listingsincharleston.com.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
The Big Talker WTMA.
Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. Thanks again for sticking with us here on the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show as we continue our discussion about housing here in the Low Country. Big thank you to Kevin Lowry for being on the show and talking about the appraisal market and answering some of those questions and just having a good discussion about appraisals in general. It's always fascinating to me to learn more about the appraisal industry. You know, obviously, the more that I know about that, the better positioned I am to help my clients sell their home and to sell it for an accurate price. It's everybody's goal, you know, every real estate agent's goal to sell a house for the most money possible. And in this market, you're in an interesting position, you know, kind of as we mentioned, in that prices are consistently rising in several different areas of Charleston. Some have started to stagnate a little bit. They're not rising as quickly as they were. But you have these pockets of real estate in the Charleston area where prices are still going up fairly dramatically. And it makes appraisals challenging. And so the what I was talking about earlier, this process of buying a listing, the idea that, you know, a real estate agent gets really excited about going over to a seller's house and talking to them about selling their house. And, you know, maybe it's one of those real estate agents that they don't have very many listings. They maybe don't sell a whole lot of properties a year. Any chance they get to get a listing, they're going to walk away with that listing no matter what. So as they're talking to the seller about the property and as they start going through the marketing, the seller's going to hopefully ask some challenging questions. They're going to challenge that real estate agent. They're going to say, you know, will you drop your commission? That agent's going to say yes. You know, I'm not a huge fan of that price that you suggested to me, John. Why don't we try this? You know, can we go that high? Agent will say yes. Do we really need to do all these repairs to our house, or, you know, do we need to do that stuff in the backyard? Can we just leave that and let the other buyer deal with that? Yeah, I don't really feel like doing that. Is that okay? Yes, that's fine, says the agent. And so this listing that the agent is super excited about isn't quite what it turned what they'd hoped for when they walk out the door. I mean, hey, they got a signed listing agreement, but it's at a high price. It's at less money than they were hoping to make. The home has a bunch of repairs that need to be done. It needs to be staged, whatever the case might be. And so the seller is on a high because they feel like they've won. You know, hey, we're saving money. We're selling it for more than we thought we could. We don't have to do all these repairs that we thought were going to be necessary. And then what happens? The property sits on the market. It doesn't sell. The sellers want advice from the real estate agent. The real estate agent is the same type of real estate agent that's going to go in there and just bend and be malleable and cave to any hard question from a seller and tell the seller whatever they want with regard to price, so long as it's somewhat reasonable. I mean, if your home is worth $250 and the seller wants to list it for $285, there are agents out there that will do that. I'm not one of those agents. I'm sorry. I don't drastically overprice properties. I will overprice a property a little bit if I feel the market can support that decision and it's consistent with your goals. But if you're the type of seller that has to sell their home in the next 60 days, and we're in one of those markets where it's going to probably take us about that amount of time to sell your home, it's not one of those pockets that are super hot right now. Overpricing is a mistake more often than not. Of course, agents aren't going to lead you to believe that, though, because they want the listing. They want that signed agreement, and their hope is that as your situation changes or as they earn your trust over time, they are going to knock your price down and hopefully get it in line so that the property can be sold. Unfortunately, it's going to take 4 or 5 or 6 months as opposed to 1 or 2. And so, of course, the seller is subjected to all kinds of showings that they probably don't want to have and a bunch of conversations with the real estate agent that kind of go nowhere. It's just the same old, hey, home hasn't sold yet. Sorry, I'm doing all I can. Talk to you next week. It's a very frustrating process for the seller. And then the seller wonders why communication drops off with that real estate agent. Well, the real estate agent really dug themselves a hole. They don't know how to get out of it. They took an overpriced listing that needs repairs, and they're not earning as much money on it. So they're spending more time looking for more opportunities than they are trying to sell your home. And I'm not trying to put all agents in this category, but don't be fooled. There are agents out there that absolutely run their business this way. Not here to throw agents under the bus, just here to help you understand that in this very specific market right now, there are a lot of agents out there. There are very few listings out there. It's natural for agents to start to do and say whatever they think the seller is going to react to in order to get that listing agreement signed, because their hope and their prayer is that your situation will become more drastic or you'll become more realistic as time goes by. And then maybe at some point in the future, they'll get you to come to a price that's more realistic. Maybe in the future, after a bunch of buyers have told you what you need to do to your home because the agent didn't want to ruffle your feathers, hey, yeah, you need to replace those carpets upstairs because they've got a bunch of stains all over them and they're not coming out with carpet cleaning. Or, sorry, you need to paint your lime green dining room, or something, off the wall, something that should be changed. When I walk into a seller's house, I have to walk into any appointment with the understanding that I am willing to walk out the door without a listing agreement if what the seller wants is something I cannot provide for them. That's what a professional does. I am not the type of agent that goes in and says, I'm the best, I'm number one, I did, blah, blah, blah. I'll sell your home for 20% above fair market value, and if I don't, I'll sell it for free. I'm a realistic person. I set realistic expectations. I've done this 1,000 times, literally, and I just help people get through the process. I communicate with them a lot, and I'm a professional. I am not one of those agents that's going to walk in there and just throw a bunch of smoke screens up. I think that the problem with this market right now, not a problem. I think that agents have done a good job. In fact, in some cases, maybe too good of a job of perfecting the marketing pitch. They are really good at telling you everything that can be done to sell a house. Their marketing plan, their pitch, the conversation that they initially have with you is pretty good. And I've gone up against some agents and competing for a listing that gave me a run for my money. And it was pretty interesting to hear some of the things that some of these agents are saying, because what some of these agents are promising sellers, I know for a fact are things that they're not doing. In some instances, I'm not going to name names, but there are agents that are promoting themselves in a certain way that I feel to be extremely inaccurate and borderline unethical. And it's just a shame that our industry has to do this. We have to always go above and beyond. We always have to overinflate our numbers. We always have to, promise more than what we think we can deliver. And it's challenging for a seller. It's really challenging. When you're going to sell your house and you're interviewing real estate agents, how do you know which agents are telling you the truth and actually will back up what they say they're going to do by being accountable to their actions? And who are the agents out there that they've perfected the marketing pitch, and the experience that you have is totally different once you sign that document with them. So that's why sellers are afraid of locking into agreements, because they're afraid of getting in bed with a real estate agent that is going to totally act differently than what they said they were going to do when you were at the dining room table talking about the process of selling your house. So I think it takes a mature and professional agent to walk into a home, tell the seller what needs to be said, not what the seller wants to hear, have a very deep conversation, not just about pricing, not just about marketing, but about motivation. What is the goal? That's the most important thing. What do you want out of this process? Do you want to sell quickly? Do you not care how long it takes to sell so long as you get your price? Let's craft a strategy around that, because my consultative approach, my suggestion for you, if you need to sell your home in 30 days or less, is going to be different than if you don't care how long it sells, so long as you get this price for your house. So it's not a one marketing plan fits all approach. And a lot of agents take that approach. Again, if you're going to sell your house, a few shows ago, I gave you a list of interview questions to ask that real estate agent. I'm happy to provide that to you. Go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, and I'll send that list over to you. Use that list if you interview me. I'll answer everything truthfully. You'll see. Or you can give me a call. If you want to sell your house, you want to talk more about this process, I can be reached at 843-345-1273. That's 843-345-1273. Again, the website, listingsincharleston.com. 2.4% commission to sell your home, folks. That's a big savings, especially when you compare it to some of the other agents out there that are doing a good amount of business, but guess what? They're charging 7, 8, 9% commission, and they're charging you a little transaction fee on top of that. So list with me, and you'll save some money, I guarantee you that. And then we'll work on creating a strategy to actually get your goals accomplished, get your home sold, get you moved, and on to the next stage of your life. Stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. WTMA. Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. Thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. And I always like to take a little bit of time every show just to say thank you to those of you that listen to this program. You use the information I provide you with to help in understanding more about the market, to set some expectations for yourself, help identify what you need to do in order to get your home sold or get prepared to buy a home, or maybe what went wrong if you tried last year and it didn't work out so well for you. So if I can help you in any way, and again, it doesn't have to be about just buying or selling or investing in real estate. I have a lot of people that call me off this program that just need some general advice. Maybe they need a contractor. Maybe they need, as I mentioned, an appraiser earlier in the program. Happy to help in any way, shape, or form, and of course, here to earn your business. So if you'd like to reach out to me, anything I can do to help you out, I can be reached at 843-345-1273. That's 843-345-1273, or go to listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. More information on myself, my team, the kind of properties we sell, what we've sold so far. We've done about 1,000 transactions here locally. And, of course, 2.4% commission to help you sell your house. And so I want to finish this program by talking a little bit about what you need to do or what you need to consider doing if you're going to sell your house this year. A lot of people are thinking about putting their home on the market in March or April. That's when a lot of people list. And I mentioned earlier in the program that inevitably every single year, January 1st, we have this huge drop in the amount of homes available for sale. It's because most real estate agents write their listing agreements to be good through the end of the year. You're going to hire me to sell your house. We're going to sign an agreement, and that agreement's going to expire on midnight of January 1st. And so January 1st rolls around. We've got this huge reduction in listings for sale. And the sellers are trying to figure out, all right, well, do we put those homes back on the market now? Do we wait? Do we go in at a better price, a higher price, same price, low price? Why didn't it sell? What was wrong? What was it? The marketing? Was it the agent? Was it the house? Was it me? Did I have unrealistic goals as a seller? Did I have an agent that told me my goals were unrealistic? Or should this home have sold? I look at all these homes that come off the market as a real estate agent every morning when I, go into the office and I talk with my team, and we get on the phone and we talk with some of these folks, and there are a lot of properties out there that are great properties. They're good-looking homes. They should be selling. And that's kind of the interesting part of this market, is that just because we're in a seller's market, just because we have inventory that's lacking in several areas of Charleston, does not mean that you can just throw your home on the market, put a sign in the front yard, put it in the MLS, and think that it'll sell. That's not always going to happen. Can it happen? Sure. But it's your time as a seller. It's your market. You're the ones that are in the driver's seat. You're the ones that should be taking advantage of it and doing everything you can to help sell your home for top dollar, to get the most money possible for your home. And so one of the ways that you do that is by spending some time preparing your home for sale. I do want to say really quickly that if your home was on the market last year, let's say it just, they came off the market at the end of the year. It really doesn't matter when it came off the market. People tend to think that by relisting their home with another agent, that it somehow resets the clock on their property. So I want to explain very quickly exactly what happens when you put a property in the MLS and that property expires from the market. That listing agreement has expired. That agent no longer has a contract to represent you and market your home for sale. Then it's going to show as expired in the MLS. If you relist your home with another agent, that new agent has the listing, yes, it's going to reflect a listing date of the day that you put the home on the market. So theoretically, quote unquote, you have a new days on market clock. Okay? However, all agents have access to the history of your address, history of your property as it has appeared in the MLS from the beginning of time. So if you have a home that was built in the 1980s and it has sold 9 times over the past, almost, 40 years, 30 years almost, then every single time it sold, every single time it was on the MLS, there is a record of that. Agents have access to that information. So just because you relist your property, it does not mean that the slate has been wiped clean, especially when it comes to websites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, so on and so forth. They track all that information. So a lot of people think they need to wait unnecessarily to allow themselves to have the clock be reset. That's not how it works, unfortunately. So there's no point in waiting if that's your idea as to how to get the home sold this time around. Take a break, let the market reset. That's not true. But I do want to talk very quickly about what can you do, what should you do when it comes to the condition of your home. I want to say this first because I don't have time to go through everything that you should do to market your property for sale and prepare it to be sold. That's why I wrote an ebook about it. So I have an ebook that I wrote, and it's about 10 pages long. It's a fairly quick read, but it is literally everything that you could do to a property to prepare it for sale. It's something that I've put together based on my own experiences, based on what has worked. I've sold my own home using that system. And it's a list of 90 things. Now, don't freak out over the fact that it's 90 things. Most sellers only do a fraction of what's on that list. Most sellers only need to do a fraction of what's on that list. If you did all 90, yeah, it would take you a while, but I tell you what, your home would sell, and I'd back that up. I'd put money up. I'd gamble on that. So it's a front to back, everything included guide to preparing your home for sale. If you guys want a copy of that, absolutely, no cost, no obligation. Just go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. Go to the contact page, listingsincharleston.com, contact page, and just say free ebook, and I'll send that right over. I know what you're talking about. But here are just a few things that I want you to think about because we've only got a few minutes left. First of all, I want you to understand the difference between repairs and upgrades. When I'm walking through a property and we're looking at the property to determine what needs to be done in order to put this property in the best light possible through the eyes of a buyer, I'm focusing on repairs. When a buyer sees a repair, it doesn't necessarily matter where you've priced your home. Even if you've taken into account the repairs that likely need to be made, a buyer is still, they can't help it. It's what they do. They're still going to see those repairs and they're going to take that into account. You're going to see dollar signs in their eyes, and they're going to take that off the price of your house. So when you look at repairs, automatically buyers are going to try and beat you up over that because they see an issue visibly that has not been addressed. They don't know that you've taken it into account with your pricing, and so they're going to knock it off the price no matter what. Now, upgrades are a totally different story. In my opinion, a very low percentage of the time am I recommending upgrades in order to sell a house. The seller will say, hey, I've got $15,000. What should I do to prepare my home for sale? And I'm going to say, we're going to focus on repairs. We're going to focus on landscaping. We're going to focus on making the home look as presentable and clean and open and bright and happy and warm as we possibly can. And then you're going to put the rest of that money in your pocket. We are not going to spend that money because you're not going to get it back. And so a lot of people out there right now are thinking about putting their home on the market. They're thinking about some things that they want to do to their house. Maybe they're scratching their head as to why their home didn't sell. Is there something wrong with the house? Was there something that should have been fixed that the other agent didn't tell them to fix? I'm happy to have that conversation with you. If you want to walk through the home with me, I'll tell you where to spend your money, where not to spend your money to make sure that you're positioning you and your home to sell. So reach out to me at 843-345-1273, and I'll do that for you. Again, go to listingsincharleston.com, listingsincharleston.com. Go to the contact page, click on contact, say free ebook, and I'll send you that ebook, 90 Things to Do to Sell Your Home for Top Dollar. And of course, 2.4% commission to help you sell your home. So would love to earn your business. Thanks so much for tuning in to the first edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here in 2017. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com.